Afternoon, everyone, and welcome back for Inspirational Perasha. This week, we are going to be speaking a little bit about this fascinating passage in the Torah that describes the altercation / meeting between Yaakov and Esav. And let's see if we could unearth some of the most inspirational parts of the Parsha. We could walk away with some meaningful insights for the Shabbat table as well. So Jacob's strategy for his reunion with his brother Esav was to divide his family. If Esav comes, the pasuk reads as follows: it says, "Vayomer im yavo Esav el hamachaneh." If Esav comes to the camp, ha'achad hikahu, he comes to one of the camps and he attacks it. V'haya machaneh nishar lepleta. Let the other camp escape. So he is dividing he is dividing up his camp into two camps, so that just in case one gets attacked, the other one is able to flee and escape. Now, Yaakov lays down the foundation for one of the principles that would ensure Jewish survival during a very turbulent, painful years of exile. So we see that this pattern of the sun setting and the sun rising throughout our history. And these are two examples that I want you to be mindful of. First, the first temple of Jerusalem was destroyed, right? We know when the Persians came in, the Babylonians actually came down, they destroyed the temple. But at the same time, as the Babylonians came down to destroy the temple, the Jewish community of Iraq, of Babylon, was already established. And that's where the Talmud was born, right? Many centuries later, as the sun set upon European Jewry, the sun rose for American Jewry and Jews in Israel. Our forefather Yaakov laid the ground, the foundation for no matter where or what our enemies sought to do to us, their plans came to naught. Am Yisrael Chai, right? That is what he was trying to figure out. How can I ensure that my descendants will overcome the deep, harsh exile that they were going to go through throughout history? So there's another pasuk which reads, it's a verse we find in the book of Proverbs. It's in the 3rd chapter. Those of us that are on the Proverbs class, we're not there yet, but it says, Al tirami pachad pitom miseit reshaim ki tavo. You will not fear such sudden terror that comes from the wicked. And therefore, Yaakov, don't worry about it. You and your descendants are going to be okay. You're going to be fine. Al tira, don't fear sudden terror of the Holocaust of the wicked when it comes, right? Anyone whose decrees, as the book of Isaiah writes, it says, Ra'u amim v'chau, band together, O people, v'azinu kol merachi aretz tazinu. Listen to these, you remorse parts of the earth, gird yourself. Chatu tizaru v'chatu, gird yourselves, you shall be broken. Atzu eitza v'tifaru devru davar, hatch a plot, it will be foiled. V'lo yakum ki imanu el. And if you agree on any kind of action against us, God says it will not succeed. So here you have different verses that all speak about the same idea, that there are going to be enemies that come up to find us, and God says, ain't happening. Now, every occurrence, every verse in the Torah is a message for us today. And this is what we say, Ma'aseh avot siman labanim. The actions of the father is a sign for the children. So the Torah is a blueprint for the future. So if we want to understand our contemporary world and know how we may best respond to the many challenges that confront us today, all we got to do is delve into this week's parsha. This week's parsha, by the way, historically, was a parsha that rabbis and Jewish leaders throughout the world would read before they'd stand up to a king or to any other person of power. They would find inspiration, ideas, some kind of insight into how they would respond to whoever it was that was ailing them at the time. So let's go on. So Jacob is the patriarch who foreshadows all of exile, right? The pain, the extraordinary suffering that our families and our ancestors have endured throughout the millennia in all the lands of all the places that we experienced, they experienced it through him. Jacob experienced everything. He felt it all. Yaakov taught us how to respond to terror at night. He taught us how to respond to the overwhelming, feelings of loneliness and fear. It wasn't a coincidence that Yaakov is the composer of Arbit, of Maariv, the evening service prayer. He showed us how to illuminate darkness with words. He showed us how to take the darkness of night and bring light into it when those words come from our hearts. He taught us that even the most difficult moments, when everything seems lost and it's just impossible, there's no way to overcome the situation, he taught us to say, I'm never going to give up. We got to turn to God in heartfelt prayer, and we're going to figure a way out of this. We just never gave up. It's interesting that in the morning, when we read the Shema, we say at the end, we say Amet, V'nachon, V'kayam, V'yashar. At the end of it, we say this is all true. It's straight. We believe in all this, right? But at night, it's the emunah kosot. All this goes into faith, and that emunah is the emunah of Yaakov. He taught us to have faith, and emunah doesn't mean have faith. Emunah means being faithful to that which is true. In the morning, we speak of the truth. In the evening, we're faithful to our truths. The patriarch Yaakov, he portrayed not only for him, he didn't only pray for himself, but he also prayed for all of us. He prayed for all the generations later. When he looked up and saw Esav coming, he saw inquisitions, he saw pogroms, he saw Holocaust, and he begged for mercy. God heard his prayers, and he promised that we, his descendants, the Jewish people, would forever survive regardless of the circumstance. Yes, I know what you're thinking, even through COVID, even through pandemic, we're gonna pull through this. Right? And this is what King David says, may God answer you on the day of distress. May the name of God, Jacob, be impregnable. Now, when Yaakov finally confronts Esav, Yaakov cries out and he says, rescue me, Hitzilena, please save me from the hand of my brother, the hand of Esav. Save me from the hand of my brother, the hand of Esav. Now, the rabbis discuss the meaning of these two hands, the meaning of my brother Esav. What does that even mean? The hand of Esav and my brother. Obviously, it's his brother. Why are you using a double, language to express the same person? Now, obviously, Yaakov had no other brother, right? We know there's nothing redundant in the Torah. So why did Yaakov use these very apparent repetitive, phrases? So the Chachamim tell us that Yaakov is teaching us that he's teaching us a very deep lesson for survival. And this is so true. I've seen this for sure in the last 18 years of my tour of duty, working on campuses, working with communities, working with young people, especially people that are unaffiliated. What I'm going to tell you, I think is so true, not just because Chachamim said it, because I'm seeing it with my own eyes. It's enough for me to hear it from them, but when you have the evidence, you see it for yourself, it makes it that much more profound. So he says like this, he says, Esav is going to confront us from two different angles. There are times when he's going to extend out a hand to us of a brotherly love and friendship. And in so doing so, he's going to attempt to destroy us through assimilation. There are times when he's going to attack us with the hands of Esav, a ruthless hand of oppression. And there's going to be the times where he's going to say, don't worry about it. Here's a rose. Be my friend. Walk beside me. Now, Esav agrees to walk with Yaakov, and he sees him and he greets him with a kiss. But it's interesting, if you look at the word neshika in the pasuk, the word for kiss in Hebrew, it's got these little small dots on top of it. And again, there's not one font in the Torah that's extra. There's not one vowel that's extra. It's there to teach you something. Well, you don't need a lot of dots on top of a word. What are they highlighting there? So the sages tell us that the kiss wasn't really a kiss. He was really coming in for a bite. He wanted to bite out Yaakov's neck. What seemed to be an act of friendship on Esav's part was disguised as a threat to his life. Midrash tells us that God, in his infinite mercy, changed his neck into a pillar of marble, thereby preventing Esav from injuring his brother. And he actually hurt his teeth in the process, and so on and so forth. That's all allegory, if you want to understand it literally, however you understand it. But we have to be, I think that the message is very clear. We have to be vigilant in regard to both hands of Esav. Yaakov feared the hand of friendship more than the friend of his brother trying to oppress him, okay? He was trying to do his best to ensure that the next generation would remember his message, right? Esav is not interested in just going ahead and being friends with us for the sake of friendship. He hates his brother. Esav soneh Yaakov, right? It's a klal that Esav hates Yaakov no matter what you do. Now, it's clear that he wants to destroy our lives. It's clear that he is more dangerous when he has giving us an outstretched hand because we have no idea how to prepare for ourselves. But God forbid, in that process of us allowing ourselves to be taken in by Yaakov, God forbid we could lose our identity. We could lose our heritage. We could lose our Jewishness. The hands of friendship can make it very easy to forget that we stood at Sinai and were bound by God by this eternal covenant. So we have to treasure the awesomeness of our survival and protect our identity, our Torah, our Judaism, with vigilance and love. The perasha continues, and it goes back and forth and talks about the brothers and their relationship with one another, and so on and so forth. I think about this parasha in so many different ways. We're living through difficult times, and there's no question that we are seeing a spike in not just COVID cases, but we're seeing a spike in anti-Semitism around the world. Things that would never be imaginable, that anyone in this country would say publicly are saying it right now. So whatever has allowed us to function in this country and operate as a Jewish community where we felt safe to express our Jewish identity. It's funny, like I grew up in an America where Jews never spoke about their Jewish identity. You had a Star of David, but you tuck it under your shirt. You didn't wear it out. You certainly didn't get a tattoo of like a Star of David on your arm, like I've seen so many times with so many of my other Jewish brothers from the former Soviet Union. I was once on a birthright trip. I was on a rage trip actually, and we're on a hike. And often, kids would want to take off their shirt. They want to cool down. So this one boy takes off his shirt, okay, which is whatever, and he has this huge tattoo of a lion breaking out of the kotel with like a Star of David around its neck, like roaring. He's just like, what are you doing? He's like, what do you mean? I'm so proud. He's like, when I went to the kotel for the first time, he's like, I connected with my people. He's like, we're lions. He's like, we're kings. And he knew nothing. He never went to a Shabbat before. The guy that was eating pork on the trip. Like he knew nothing, but like he was proud of his inscription on his body, the ink on his body. And it's funny because, Yaakov was all about the opposite of tattooing yourself. Tattooing yourself is the most chitzoni, external way of expressing our Judaism. But Judaism that Yaakov wanted to impart to his children and us, his descendants, was a pnimiyut, was an inner connection to our Judaism. Let's not forget that we are very much products of the culture that we're in, and that America, while it's amazing, it's awesome here, if history is our teacher and we're its students, we should not be surprised if we will see a time where our people leave this country like they did every other place we were in. Now, it doesn't have to be a bad thing. It doesn't have to be with like pogroms and Holocaust and whatnot, but just know that we are strangers in a strange land, and that every place where our ancestors made pledges to those countries and built up those countries, built up those centers, built up those societies, they, for whatever reason, decided to pick up and go, whatever the circumstances were. And while I love America, I was born here, and I have so much respect for what the country has given to me, but at the same time, I have a responsibility to my people and my family. So Yaakov is teaching us, never get too comfortable when you're in exile. Remember that you're still in the belly of the beast, and that sometimes a hand outstretched in friendship can be much more dangerous than someone holding out a sword asking you to defend yourselves. Wishing you all a Shabbat Shalom. It should be filled with clarity. It should be filled with simcha, filled with health. We should see together this virus, this pandemic, this disease, COVID-19, be eradicated from us. We can get back to doing things back to the normal way, in person. We get to feel each other's warm embrace again. I crave that human connection that I don't feel like I get on these platforms. But certainly it should be a Shabbat Menucha, and I look forward to sharing more ideas with you, God willing, in the future. Hopefully in person, but not, this will do. Wishing you all a Shabbat Shalom Mevorach. Thank you so much, everybody. Take care of yourselves. Be well. Shabbat Shalom, Alana. Thank you, Caroline.